So you recently learned about the CFP career, and someone mentioned that there's a big exam involved. It's true. The CFP exam is no joke. And in the next 10 minutes, we're going to cover everything you need to know about the exam. Pass rates, format, topics, dates, and costs. Let's dive in. Let's start with probably what's most top of mind for you. How difficult is this exam really? Well, the CFP exam has a pass rate that hovers around 65%. That means 1 in 3 candidates fail. To put that in perspective, it's about in line with financial exams like the Series 7, but more forgiving than, say, the bar exam. The exam is designed to be rigorous enough to maintain the value of certification, but achievable with proper preparation. So what does it take to be part of that 65% who pass? Well, as you may already know, all CFP candidates are required to complete specific coursework. So in reality, your exam prep starts over a year before the exam. Now, most successful candidates will then dedicate the last 3 to 4 months and over 250 hours to hardcore exam prep. This will vary based on your background and experience. If you're a practitioner for the last decade, your study plan will look different than, say, a career changer or someone in college. But even if you do have industry experience, don't underestimate this exam. That's because the CFP exam has 2 things that distinguish it from other financial exams like the Series 7 or 65. What makes it particularly challenging is its comprehensive nature and emphasis on application. Rather than simply testing your ability to memorize facts, about 80% of the questions are scenario-based. So you'll be presented with a client situation and asked to analyze the problems, identify relevant factors, and determine the appropriate recommendation, just like you would do in real life. There is a sprinkling of textbook style, what is the definition of X, but not many. Another challenge is the breadth of the exam. It covers 8 principal knowledge domains, which we'll talk about in a second. The integration of these domains is particularly important. Many questions require you to draw connections between the different areas of financial planning, reflecting the holistic nature that distinguishes CFP professionals. Let's talk about the structure of the exam a little bit. The CFP exam is computer-based and administered by Prometric in test centers across the country. It consists of 170 multiple-choice questions, though only 150 of these will be scored. The other 20 are questions being evaluated for future exams. Unfortunately, you're not going to know which questions those are, so you'll need to approach every question as if it counts. The exam is divided into 2 3-hour-long sessions with a 40-minute break in the middle, making for a total of nearly 7 hours of test taking. Each session contains a mix of standalone and case study questions, and once you've completed the first half, you can't go back and return to those questions. All questions are multiple choice with 4 possible answers. Within each test session, you can flag questions for review, navigate back and forth, which is really helpful for managing your time. Each question is worth about the same, regardless of its difficulty, and there is no penalty for guessing on questions that you're unsure about. As for scoring, the CFP exam uses a pass-fail system rather than providing a numerical number like the SAT or ACT. At any given time, there are several versions of the exam being administered, so the questions you get will likely be different than someone else in your study group. This means the exact number of questions you need to answer correctly might vary slightly from one exam to the next based on its difficulty. The cutoff for passing is determined by a panel of experts evaluating the difficulty of each question and then determining the minimum threshold for that exam. When you do take the exam, you'll immediately receive a preliminary pass-fail result, with official results typically coming within a few weeks after the exam window closes. If you don't pass, you'll receive a diagnostic report showing your performance in each of the knowledge domains to help you focus your studying for the next time. Bottom line, the CFP exam is a marathon, not a sprint, so pace yourself accordingly. As you get closer to taking the exam, I've got several videos talking about test-taking strategies, including how to manage your time. All right, so what exactly do you need to know to pass the exam? There are 8 principal knowledge domains, each with different weighting on the exam. The largest domain is retirement savings and income planning at 18% of the exam. It covers retirement needs analysis, various types of retirement plans like 401ks and IRAs, Social Security benefits, and distribution strategies. It's heavily emphasized because retirement planning is often the primary concern for financial planning clients. Next, both general financial planning principles and investment planning represent 17% of the exam each. General principles includes things like the financial planning process, client interactions, behavioral finance concepts, and financial plan development. Essentially, the framework that you use as you are a CFP professional. Investment planning covers portfolio theory, investment vehicles like mutual funds and ETFs, as well as risk and return concepts. This domain tests both your technical knowledge, it does have some math, and your ability to apply that knowledge in client-appropriate ways. Tax planning accounts for 14% of the exam questions. This includes things like fundamentals, tax reduction strategies, tax implications of various financial decisions. Tax planning is an area where a lot of CFP professionals can often demonstrate significant value to their clients. Okay, so we've covered 4 of the major domains that take about 2/3 of the exam. Let's quickly go through the last 4. Risk management and insurance planning represents 11% of the exam. It covers things like risk principles, needs analysis for various types of insurance, and specific insurance products like life, health, disability, and long-term care. Estate planning makes up 10% of the exam, covering estate tax concepts, wealth transfer strategies, and business succession planning. While it isn't the biggest domain, it often contains some of the most technically complex material. Professional conduct and regulation accounts for 7% of the exam. This includes things like ethics, the CFP board practice standards, regulatory requirements, and compliance issues. Though it's a smaller percentage, these questions are critically important because they reflect the professional standards that define the CFP certification. And finally, there's the newest domain, psychology of financial planning, at 6% of the exam. This was added in 2022, and this domain examines how client and planner attitudes towards money, behavioral finance concepts, sources of money conflict, and principles of counseling. It recognizes that effective financial planning requires understanding the human element, not just the numbers. Now, what makes the CFP exam particularly challenging is that many of the case studies require you to integrate knowledge from multiple domains. So a retirement planning question, for example, might include tax considerations, estate planning implications, and investment strategies. This integration reflects the reality of financial planning, where client situations rarely fit neatly into a single category. All right, now that we know what's on the exam, let's talk practical details. When should you take it? How do you register? And how much does the exam cost? Well, before we get there, do me a favor and hit the like button. This is a new channel, and while these videos are not exactly viral material, if you know someone else who might be interested in becoming a CFP, share this video with them. All right, let's talk about timing. The CFP exam is offered 3 times per year in the US, in March, July, and November. Each testing window lasts about a week, so you've got some flexibility in when you schedule. For example, in 2025, the exam windows are for March 18th to 25th, July 10th through 17th, and November 3rd through 12th. The specific dates are announced well in advance on the CFP board's website. Now, deciding the right time to take the exam is a mix of your eligibility as well as personal life events. You become eligible to take the exam when you meet 2.5 criteria. First, you need a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university. The good news is that your degree can be in any field, not just finance. So yes, your English, philosophy, fine arts degree, those all count. If you have an international degree, the board has a process for verifying equivalency. Second, you must have completed or be on target to complete the CFP required coursework about 3 weeks before the exam window opens. There are hundreds of local universities that offer accredited classes, as well as several large online providers. I've got a video talking about how to choose your education provider, which I'll link here. Finally, while not quite a requirement, I suggest you think about when to take the exam in the context of your work experience. To be certified, you need to complete 6,000 hours of professional experience or 4,000 hours if you're going the apprenticeship pathway. This needs to be done 10 years before or 5 years after the exam. So if you're in a role where, say, only 10 hours per week counts towards the experience requirement, you may want to wait a year or 2 before taking the exam so you don't go past that 5-year window. Now, to register for the exam, you need to sign up through the CFP board's website. During registration, you're going to verify that you completed or are on track to complete the education requirement and respond to some ethics questions. Importantly, even after registering with the board, you need to register with Prometric, the test center, to sign up for a specific date, time, and location. Prometric administers a lot of professional exams. So you'll be taking your CFP exam the same time someone else is taking their CFA exam or nursing exam. Finally, let's talk about costs. The standard registration fee is $925, but there are several ways to save or spend more depending on how you register. Early bird registration, which typically ends about 2 months before the exam, saves you $100. Late registration, starting about 6 weeks before the exam, adds $100, bringing the total to well over $1,000. Now, most candidates also enroll in an exam prep program. These run from $600 to over $2,000. Check out my video breaking down the most popular online programs based on budget and learning style. I'll see you in the next video.